Release the dreadnought.
Written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, Death Race is an incredible dystopian action thriller starring Jason Statham, Tyrese Gibson, Ian McShane, and Joan Allen. While technically a remake of the 1975 Death Race 2000, directed by Paul Bartel, in turn based on I.B. Melchior's short story The Racer, conceptually, the film is more of a prequel.
I was a big fan of the original movie when I was a teenager, and it was the movie your parents didn't want you to see, because it was just packed with unmotivated nudity and senseless violence.
A remake had been in development since the early 2000s, but mediocre scripts and disputes caused delays. Following the success of Alien vs. Predator, Anderson revealed that he was directing a remake of Death Race 2000 at Paramount Pictures, based on a script by J.F. Lawton that would be produced by Tom Cruise and Paula Wagner.
I wanted to stay true to, the slightly irreverent tone of Death Race 2000 without becoming intentionally campy. I wanted to tell a more serious story.
The new script was described as a riff on the first film set in the future, with rocket cars, machine guns, force fields, cars that can split apart and reform, as well as vehicles that become invisible. 2 years later, Roger Corman, who produced Death Race 2000, elaborated that he had an option agreement to have Cruise in the lead role, but Cruise wasn't really happy with the first two screenplays.
We wanted to make the message clear. It is not a traditional B-movie. By populating the film with major actors, proven dramatic actors, that message will be more clearly conveyed.
In 2006, Jeremy Bolt described the remake's new tone as being a reality television event that was on steroids, without the satire of the original. The following August, Paramount ended its relationship with Cruise Wagner Productions, and Death Race was placed in turnaround. Universal Studios eventually acquired it, with Cruise and Wagner resuming their roles as producers, and Anderson returning to write and direct the film. In April of 2007, Jason Statham entered negotiations to star in the lead role, with production slated to begin during the summer. The setting for the film would appropriately be a super violent prison, and while filled with echoes of the original, it's more of a gladiatorial race than anything else.
The idea is they've all been made in a prison workshop. So there's a very kind of homemade feel to the cars, which kind of harks back to the rec-tech aesthetic of 80s movies like The Road Warrior.
The year is 2012. The economy has slipped into disaster. Unemployment and crime rises, and private corporations run most prisons across the nation for profit. And the Terminal Island Prison have started broadcasting a morally questionable death race to the world via a popular pay site on the net. Throughout the season, inmates battle each other in specifically modified cars on a track cut into the grounds, with the goal of winning their freedom. Instead of the cross-country race where running down pedestrians is worth extra points, Anderson's film restricts the madness to a prison complex and inserts video game features like running over targets to enable weapons, escape routes, and other chaotic presence. The film begins by showing a race near its end between Tyrese Gibson's Machine Gun Joe and a famous masked driver known as Frankenstein in a cameo by David Carradine, reprising his role from the original 1975 classic. When Frank's defense system fails, Joe destroys Frank's car and his navigator ejects, presumably leaving Frankenstein critically wounded or dead. We then meet our protagonist, industrial worker and ex-con Jensen Ames, who struggles to support his family.
So, $300. That's all they gave us.
We'll make it last. We always do.
We'll start it tomorrow.
Returning home from the closing of the steel mill he works at, he's knocked out by a masked intruder. Waking up with a bloodied knife in his hand, Susie dead nearby, and police breaking in, he's sentenced to life imprisonment for Susie's death, while Piper is placed in foster care. Transferred to Terminal Island Prison, Ames is coerced by the sadistic prison warden named Hennessy to become the new Frankenstein. Noting that his baby was left in foster care, she explains that prisoners are freed upon winning 5 death races, and since Frankenstein had 4 wins to his name, he only needed to win 1. If something is too good to be true, it usually is.
How many people has Frank killed?
20. The mortality rate is average 62.2% per race.
So Frank paid the odds 4 times.
The races are broken apart into 3 stages. Stage 1 and 2 are essentially survive and conquer, while Stage 3 involves winning the race outright. Just before the Stage 1 race, Ames is introduced to his navigator, Elizabeth Kate, who worked with Frankenstein. During the race, Ames then sees another driver named Pachenko make the same hand gesture as the intruder that killed his wife, and the plot thickens like pasta sauce. With multiple drivers dying and Ames finishing last after taking a hard hit from Machine Gun Joe, he soon learns that he's part of a plot to keep the legend of Frankenstein alive, solely for the personal profit of Hennessy. After confronting Hennessy and Pachenko about what is really happening behind the scenes, Ames understandably enters stage 2 and immediately questions Case on her intentions. She admits that she was ordered to sabotage Frankenstein's defense weapons to earn her freedom. Ames isn't supposed to survive the death race at all, but is meant to die so another Frankenstein can be brought in to keep viewers paying to see the races.
Frankenstein can't die. After all, he's just a mask.
Taking control during stage 2, he disables Pachenko's car and snaps his neck like a boss. 5 drivers then remain until 14K, Carson and Riggins are killed by the Dreadnought, Hennessy's secret weapon, forcing Ames and Machine Gun Joe to team up to destroy the Dreadnought and finish stage 2. Realizing that Ames is onto her, Hennessy has his car armed with an explosive before stage 3 to ensure it does not cross the finish line alive, but it's disabled by Coach. As they approach the end of the race, Joe fires an RPG at Ames that misses the car and hits the billboard, revealing a pathway to the bridge leading off the island. With help from the other prisoners, including Case, the pair escape by boarding a train, and Hennessy is blown up by the very explosive meant for Ames. Picking up 6 months later, we see Ames and Joe working in a junkyard in Mexico, joined by Case and his daughter Piper. Jason Statham is great as Jensen Ames, a former NASCAR driver that is falsely accused and forced to survive using his skill, wits, and dedication to family. He's an exceptionally tough guy, and Statham imbues his Ames with a restrained rage that is bustling to the surface with each revelation. Tyrus Gibson is solid as Joseph Machine Gun Joe Mason, a ruthless racer who's also trying to escape. Despite his callousness in the races, Gibson gives his Joe a very likable quality, and when it's down to him and Ames, despite wanting the hero to survive, there is an amazing tension that builds when you think that they're going to be killing each other in stage 3, that only subsides when you realize the missile is being used to help them get out. Ian McShane is a bloody legend, and his stern father-like Coach grows upon you, especially when you find out that he's a voluntary inmate disillusioned with life outside. It's a nice touch for a character that helps Ames keep on track, literally and metaphorically.
To what do we owe the pleasure of your company? I killed my wife. Bullshit. The way you looked at her, couldn't do that if you'd killed her mother.
I thought Natalie Martinez was okay as Case, considering what she had to work with. Joan Allen is also exceptional as Claire Hennessy, a sadistic prison warden consumed with profits, and we get a sufficiently menacing performance from Jason Clarke as her second-in-command. The race set pieces inspired by Mad Max 2 are insane. Seeing the drivers trying to destroy each other with the aid of machine guns, oil slicks and collisions is just what the title promised, and boy does the movie deliver in that department. And no car gets totaled without flipping into the air several times and exploding. The strength of the film is that it embraces its concept. The stakes are always deadly high, and we're sufficiently invested in Ames' quest for freedom. But amidst the noise, explosions, and chaos, we do lose some of the charm and humor of the original film to the bombastic spectacle. The ending also felt a bit rushed, and it would have been nice to see more of a resolution to Death Race than Hennessy blowing up via proxy. At the end of the day, it's in the races that Death Race shines. The fast action, old school stunts, mixture of practical and CGI effects are a visual delight that equally complement the testosterone, fast cars, hot chicks, and family. I just wish there was a bit more plot and character development under the hood.